Okay, so we've done multiplication pretty straightforward, and we know the multiplication rules. But just know that for signs, the multiplication and division rules are the exact same thing. Okay, so let's go over some division problems. The main thing you need to remember with division problems is that you have to turn them into a multiplication problem, and we do that with leave, change, flip. Leave, change, flip. So it's similar to what we do for subtraction of fractions, but it's just slightly different. So let's try our first problem. So let's say we have 10 divided by 2/5. And let's just go ahead and make this a -10. -10 divided by 2/5. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is, of course, turn this 10 into a fraction. And how do you turn a whole number into a fraction? You just put a 1 under it. That's it. Okay? So let's go ahead and rewrite this, and we're going to leave, change, flip. Okay? So I'm going to leave my first number, 10/1. I'm going to change the division sign into a multiplication sign. Now after, I'm going to go ahead and take the reciprocal of 2/5, which is 5/2. 5/2. So all I've done was just flipped this piece and then turn this division into a multiplication sign. Okay? Now, I'm just going to go ahead now. It's a multiplication problem, so I'll just follow my multiplication rules. 10 times 5 is going to be equal to 50, but this is a -10, so this is going to be negative. And then 2 times 1 is 2. So how many times does 2 go into 50? It goes in 25 times, and we keep that negative sign. Okay, so once again, if you wanted to cross cancel like I showed you in the previous video, you certainly can, so that you don't have to simplify at the very end. So there's no other number that could go into 1 and 5. I can't do it this way, but 2 and 10 certainly. 2 could go into 2 one time, and 2 could go into 10 5 times. So -5 times 5 is going to be equal to -25, because only one sign is negative, and then 1 times 1 is of course just 1. So, as you can see, we'll arrive at the same answer. Let's try another example with fractions. So, let's say we have 5/8, and I'm going to write a little bit bigger, divided by 3 3/4. Okay? So, the first thing I want to do is, of course, turn this mixed number into an improper fraction. So, I'm going to have 5/8 is being multiplied, let's keep it divided by now. It's being divided, 4 times 3 is 12, plus 3 is 15, so we have 15/4, okay? Now, let's go ahead and do our leave, change, flip. So 5/8 is going to be multiplied by 4/15, okay? Now, I could go about this multiple ways. I can multiply across, but I'm going to go ahead and cross cancel here, because I don't really want to multiply 15 by 8. There's a shortcut. Half of 8 is going to be 4, so basically it's going to be 40 times 3. But I'm going to go ahead and just simplify with cross canceling. So which number could go into both 5 and 15? That's going to be 5. 5 goes into 5 once. 5 goes into 15 3 times. Next, 4 and 8. What number could go into both 4 and 8? That'll be 4. 4 goes into 4 once. 4 goes into 8 2 times. So I now have a much simplified fraction. 1 times 1 is going to be equal to 1. And then finally 2 times 3 is going to be equal to 6. Now, I could have done 10 times 4, which is going to be 20. And 15 times 8. And I'll go ahead and multiply it out for you. This is going to be 4, and of course it's going to be 120. Okay, so now I have 20 over 120. If I go ahead and simplify and divide both top and bottom by 20, this is going to be 1/6. Okay, so it's whatever you feel comfortable with. If you could learn how to cross cancel and you could recognize the numbers going into each other, I suggest we definitely do that, because it'll save all the hassle of having to multiply by those huge numbers. Okay? Now, let's go ahead and talk about division of decimals. Let's say I have 18. No, we'll do that one next. Let's say I have 36, and I divide 36 by 1.2. Now, the first number always goes on the inside. Okay, this is my dividend, and this over here is my divisor, what I'm dividing by. The rule for division of decimals, the divisor cannot be a decimal. You have to turn that into a whole number. And to turn this into a whole number, we have to move the decimal place once. Since we move this decimal place once, we also have to move this decimal place once. So what we actually have is 12 divided by 360. I moved this decimal place over here, so I'm just going to make sure I put it back over here. Now, if this had a decimal place and this didn't, let's say it was 3.6 divided by 12. This is already a whole number, so I wouldn't have had to move it. The only thing that matters is this. This cannot be a decimal. This doesn't matter. This cannot be a decimal though. So let's go ahead and divide. 12 goes into 3 0 times, but 12 goes into 36 3 times. 12 goes into 0 0 times, so that's it. My answer would be 30. And it makes sense. How many 1.2s could fit into 36? It's definitely going to be 30. Okay? So let's go ahead and give something else a try. Let's try some negatives now. So I have negative 18 is being divided by, let's say, negative 2.25. Okay? Negative 2.25. Now, they're both negatives, so I know that my answer has to be a positive in this situation. Signs are the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with 18. And this is going to be 2.25. All right, now I have to move this over twice. So I have to move this over twice. Okay? Now, since I moved that over twice, I'm going to go ahead and create a new problem. Decimal here, goes in 225. Okay? So, 225 cannot go in 1. 225 cannot go in 18. 225 cannot go into 180. But I do know that 225 could go into 1800. It's just a fact that I know. But if you didn't know that, you could have multiplied 225 on the side. Just keep trying it, and then eventually you would find 8. So I'm going to go ahead and divide that. My answer is going to be 8 times. So it makes sense is because 2 times 8 is around 16. And we have a little bit more, so it's going to be around 18. So this answer definitely makes sense. So my answer would be 8 for this situation. Let's try one more. One more in which our quotient is not a whole number. So how about this? 19.5, negative 19.5, and I'm going to divide that by 0.2. All right? This way I know that I won't have a whole number in my quotient. So, once again, I'm going to go ahead and divide 19.5 divided by 0.2. This has to move one time. This has to move one time. So, my new division problem is 195 with the decimal. Don't forget your decimal there. And then 2. Okay? So, 2 goes into 1 0 times. 2 goes into 19 9 times to equal 18. 2 goes into 15 7 times. 2 cannot go into 1, so I have to go ahead and pull this 0 down. But 2 can go into 10 5 times. So my answer is going to be 97.5. It makes sense. It's because 0.2 is so small that 97.5 will definitely work. Okay? And that's it. Oh, negative, positive. This is a negative answer. Almost forgot.